comes crashing down, I'll be by your side. That's why you must stay strong. Be strong and hold on. God is working out a plan for every one of us. He chose his son to die for us on that lonely cross, to give us answers, to show us too much more than we'll ever know. That's why you must stay strong. Be strong and hold on. Young boy, it's okay if you cry sometimes. It ain't the end. So hold those tears tonight. It will be a better day than it was before. That's why you must stay strong. Be strong and hold on. God is working out a plan for every one of us. He chose his son to die for us on that lonely cross, to give us answers, to show us too much more than we'll ever know. That's why you must stay strong. Be strong and hold on.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. That's why you must be strong. Thank you so much, Mel Rose. Welcome, everyone, to the Nicole B. Jackson Show. I'm excited and delighted that you are here tonight as we continue our conversation and discussion on the cost of freedom. Tonight's very important show highlights political involvement and community involvement and just being aware of your rights, freedoms, and liberties. Tonight's show is for anyone who's ever had questions about what it means to be a citizen of this great country that we live in, what privilege it is, and what we can do to get involved and be the change that we want to see. We ask for your input tonight. So if you have questions, you have comments, be sure to call in because we want to hear from you. Guys, get ready for a great show. We want to head back over to our awesome guitarist who's been joining us this far tonight, who's going to give us another awesome selection. And we will be right back and jump into the show. Mel Rose, take it away.
Every morning when I wake up, I see your face. Smile so bright it makes the sun look out of place. Whoever thought that I could be so in love? But here I am, staring at your pictures. Staring at your pictures. So far apart but close in heart, I feel your warm embrace. Seasons change but baby we'll always stay the same. Whoever thought that I could be so in love? But here I am, staring at your picture. Staring at your pictures. You know that I miss you, baby, baby. You know it's true. But what would make me so happy, baby, if you keep sending feelings. staring at your picture. Thank you. What was I supposed to do? I got caught staring at you. Oh no. But those eyes, they pierce into my heart, and I'm weak for you, baby. Brown eyes, you've got those brown eyes, and they've got me. Oh.
Show. Guys, you are tuned in live, and we're doing things a little bit different tonight here on the show. So, welcome again. Tonight, we are starting off with our Mind, Body, and Spirit segment. For those of you who watch the show on a regular basis, you know that this segment we take special pride in talking about the fact that health and wellness deals with your mind, your body, and your spirit. And typically, the host for this segment is usually Lakia Brandenburn, LB. Tonight, though, she just happens to be in the hot seat. And she is the highlight of this segment tonight. And I wanted to give her an opportunity to talk a little bit about herself so you can get a chance to know her and what she does in addition to being the host here for the Mind, Body, and Spirit segment. And of course, it has to do with the cost of freedom. So welcome, LB.
Thank you so much for having me. Oh, this is so funny. I love it.
I know, right? So let's talk.
Let's talk.
So tonight's topic is the cost of freedom.
Yes.
And of course, we're talking about political involvement, political awareness, and community involvement.
Okay.
And before we kind of get into what your view is on it in regards to relationships,
Okay.
how do you feel about community involvement and us as a country and citizens getting involved?
Absolutely. Well, I think it's so important for us. One, you said get involved. There's something that we can do. When we always sit on the sideline and complain or we voice our opinions about what's going on, the question is, what are we doing to make a change? You always say, be the change you want to see, but I think it's just so important, especially at this time in our life, at this time in our country where we're headed. We have to start making our voice known. We have to start being involved by volunteering, by voting, most importantly, voting.
Yes.
Because we always say, my vote doesn't count, but how do you know that? Your vote won't count if you don't cast it. So I think it's just so important and it's key for us to start moving this country forward in the direction that we want to see it go in.
I love it. And we say be the change that you want to
See?
Exactly. So tell our viewers a little bit more about you and what you do and all of that awesome stuff.
Absolutely. Well, aside from being the co-host here at the Nikhol B. Jackson TV show, I am also a wife coach. That's wife with a W, not life. Wife. I prepare and educate women before and after they say I do. I am passionate about giving those women inspiration that they need so that they can create and live the relationship they truly want, the marriage that they truly want. And that inspiration comes in the forms of tools, from coaching, one-on-one coaching, to workshops, to teleclasses, just so many different things that I do and services that I provide so that they can have that happily ever after that most of us seek. Us girls, we want to have that happily ever after. So you have a wife coach to help you get you there.
Awesome. So now let's twist that or flip that a little bit.
Flip the script.
Because when we hear about marriage and relationships, sometimes from a male perspective, it's the idea that, okay, life is over.
Clank, clank.
You just said we as women, we're looking for the happily ever after. And sometimes for men, it's, I got to go home to that ball and chain. So it's not necessarily the happily ever after. So there's a cost.
Yes.
There are certain liberties, certain freedoms that do come with relationships and marriage, but
Absolutely.
there are costs.
Yes.
What in your opinion, are some of those costs or freedoms in relationships?
Well, you know what? I'll start here. There is a memorial, a Korean memorial in Washington, D.C., and there's a quote that reads, "Freedom is not free." Okay, so it's just important to know, not just dealing with political, activism, all those things, but even in relationships, freedom is not free. There is a cost to pay, and that cost is paid through premarital education. It's paid through the way you
Premarital education.
Notice I said premarital.
What is premarital education?
See, that's the point. The key word is education. Most of the times we don't know that we don't know. So you have to understand what you're getting yourself into. You have to get educated. I can't get counseled on something I have no idea about. So let's go to the foundation. Educate me. What is a wife? What is a husband? What is a marriage? What is the foundation of a marriage? And when you're putting in that work, that's the cost that you're paying in order to create that happily ever after, that freedom that you want. Because communication, for example, is work. Come on, Nicole.
It's work. It's work.
Communication is work.
Yes.
And you have to understand that there's a difference between hearing and listening. We hear with our ears, we listen with our emotions. So in a relationship, I'm paying the cost to make sure I truly understand what you're saying, not just trying to be understood.
Now go back. You've said we hear with our ears, but we listen with our emotions.
Yes.
Now talk to us a little bit about that, because again, going back to what the idea of relationships and marriage is in society.
Right.
We have the idea that we cannot speak freely.
Right.
We cannot be ourselves, and that the things that we desire and we want individually now are not important.
Right.
So we may hear certain things, but the emotion sometimes we have the idea that has to change.
Right.
So talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, you know what? Our emotions are always in motion. We feel one way, we feel one way today, we feel one way tomorrow. And so it's important, especially when I coach my single wives and when I coach my clients, it's all about understanding what is it that I'm feeling? Why am I feeling this way? And most of the time it's not them. It's something we're dealing with that we're taking out on the other person. So one thing, for example, with communication, I always teach them to tame their tongue. See, it's not saying you can't speak. A lot of people say, okay, I got a muzzle. I can't talk, can't express myself. That's not what I'm saying.
You said tame.
I said tame. That's discipline. I know Mel Rose. I told you I was going to get a little singing in here. It's all about disciplining your tongue. Thinking before you speak. Is it thoughtful? Is it helpful? Is it inspiring? Is it necessary? Is it kind? See, that slows you down from just blurting out everything that your emotions tell you. I feel this way, so I'm just going to speak the way I want to speak. And that's not how you effectively communicate with your spouse. Believe me, it takes training. I'm still working.
Education and education, right?
Yes,
Training and education. You have to learn. A lot of us don't have examples of good, healthy relationships, and so we don't know what it's supposed to look like when it comes to effective communication.
Exactly.
Okay. So I get it. We got to hear with our ears and listen with our emotions. And so, if there was, I guess, anything else that you wanted people to know about relationships and about the cost that we have to pay sometimes to get what we want, what would it be?
Well, you know what? One thing you have to understand is that in a relationship, in a marriage especially, as a wife coach, it's no longer about you. You can't be selfish. You have to put down that selfish coat and pick up that selflessness. You have to truly give of yourself. See, even you're talking about service, right? When you talk about the freedom.
Yes.
A king and a queen, a wife and a husband, is all about service. That's the ultimate form of service. It's an act of service. Dr. Gary Chapman told us that's one of the love languages that we share with each other. We actually speak acts of service to each other. To me, that's what royalty is supposed to look like. It's not being on a pedestal pointing fingers, giving directions. You submit to me. No, absolutely not. You're serving each other, and that's what it's supposed to look like. So I don't want you to feel that you're going to be in this institution of bondage. What you about to say? It's not an institution of bondage. It really is an institution of freedom, but you have to create it to be that. And it's being educated. It's understanding your role, understanding what you desire. What's your vision? What are you doing? Why did you say I do? See, when you have all those things in order, have all those things in place, that's when you start living the freedom and realize that, you know what, this work that I'm doing is priceless.
So now I hear it. I get it. This is the work that I do as well. But for the viewers out there who are listening, especially the ladies, like okay, LB, I hear what you're saying, but realistically, how do I do that?
Yeah.
How do I not be selfish and be selfless but still have my needs met?
Absolutely.
How do I pay the cost of freedom but still be relevant in this relationship?
Well, you know what? You have to know that it's a daily work in progress. It is not going to happen overnight. I talked about training. I talked about education. Look at the bigger picture. What is it that you want? And if your actions aren't aligning to that bigger picture or helping you get there, then you need to start making some changes. That perception you talked about, the ball and chain and things like that, the clink clink, that has to change, because that's how I saw marriage initially. My first example of marriage came from my parents. You know, I saw unfaithfulness. I saw arguing, fighting. Today I call that intense fellowship.
Intense fellowship.
We have those.
Things that make you go,
But that's what marriage was for them. That was bondage. I didn't want that. So I knew that I had to do the work. You know, if you want, what do you always say about the work? If you do the work works if you work.
if you work it. Work works if you work it.
Listen to your therapist.
With your emotions.
Exactly. So when you do the work, it's going to start paying off. And just know and start believing and have faith that, you know what, if God brought me together with this man and this is the man I'm choosing to live my life with, we're going to live this picture out loud. But we're going to go through some things. There's going to take some pulls, some struggles. There are going to be some obstacles. There are going to be some things that we go through. The key word is through. You're not going to stay there. If you choose to stay there, you can stay there. But you can go through. It is a choice. But you can have the relationship that you want. It just takes work. And that's what a wife coach is here for, to help you get through those obstacles.
Now, it's the wife coach. Lifestyle living. So those are things that we as women can do.
Yes.
Now, what about the men?
Okay.
So if the woman is doing these things and we're really working diligently,
Yes.
and, you know, really trying really hard to be that change that we want to see, and we're trying to educate ourselves and tame the tongue and do all these great things that you mentioned, what should we expect to see from our significant other? And how do we know that it's working?
I'm so happy. The exact same thing, because you have joined him and y'all became one. You should be working on that together. See, my whole thing is, the Bible tells us that a man who finds a wife finds a good thing, and that there's so much power in that woman. If she only knew how to use that power for good, how to use that power to influence. You know, sometimes you have to be the one that starts it off. You have to be. You have to put that selfishness aside. He should know how to do this. He should know, okay, you know what, but maybe he doesn't. You know, my husband had no examples of marriage. He thought that marriage messed everything up. Come on, baby, let's just go together forever.
You said go together. So here it was, you had an example, but it wasn't necessarily the healthiest example, and he had none.
Exactly.
So there was a lot of educating that had to go on both ends.
On both ends. And exactly, we took the pledge, we took the vow and said, this is what we want. And so I knew, accepting my husband where he was, what we would have to do. He knew, accepting me where I was, what we were going to have to do. I'm seeing the change. Going on 6 years, I'm seeing the change. It's slowly, progressively getting there. It's a slow process on both ends, but we see it when we look back and see what we've been through and how we've made it through. And we're like, wow, you know what? We're living this lifestyle. We're living this, you know, example of picture perfect based on imperfections. Because, you know, he's not perfect, girl, and I'm not perfect. But together, we're picture perfect.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay. So last piece of advice for the men.
Look at her. She want me to give it to him. Sure. You have to wear. See, I'm preparing her for you. My whole thing is, I'm making husbands happy.
Say that again. You're preparing what?
Her for you. I'm making husbands happy, one wife at a time. And so what I want you to do is to wear your crown. Be the king of the household. Support her. Love her the way she needs to be loved, so that she can learn how to love you. Learn how to speak her love language. Meet her needs, her desires. Keep courting her. And just be patient with this wonderful, delicate gem that God has bestowed upon you, because she's precious and she's valuable. Because when a man understands the value in his wife, he understands the value in himself. So that's my advice. Happy marriages everywhere.
Awesome, awesome. So now you've got all these good tips and techniques. So for the ladies and gentlemen who are out there watching, and they want more, they are like, okay, you have reeled me in. I am there. What should they do?
You need to go to LakiaBrandenburn.com. You can find me also on Instagram at The Wife Coach. I have coaching sessions that I set up. I'm also doing workshops. There's also a book signing. I don't know if I shared that I am an author of 2 raving relationship books. The first one is He's Not Perfect. I'm Not Perfect, but Together We're Picture Perfect. And the second one is The Tiara 5 Ways to Reign as Queen of Your Castle. I'm actually doing a book signing this Sunday at Mardi Gras off of Martin Luther King. So come out, meet and greet. Would love to give you some one-on-one time to help you, not only reign as king of your castle, but to show you how that queen is supposed to be.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So let's talk. You mentioned the single wives.
Oh, I did.
So let's talk briefly about that, and then we're going to keep it moving.
Yes, we
So
are.
talk briefly about the single wives.
Sure. Well, the Single Wives is an organization, the Single Wives Club, right here, based in Atlanta. Founder, Coriel DeBose, which is basically an empowerment organization, preparing women who are single, who desire to be married. She's preparing them through these amazing workshops, this wonderful Work, Pray, Slay weekend that's coming up in October, helping them to become better women before becoming wives. So she feeds their mind, just like mind, body, and spirit. She feeds the mind. She strengthens their body. She empowers their spirit through everything that she does here in Atlanta. So I invite you to go to their website, thesinglewivesclub.com. I'm also the director, really quickly, of the Wives Society.
You know that was coming next. That was my next question.
She said keep it quick, so I want to make sure. It is the official mentoring program for the single wives. So again, you and I, Nikhol is also a mentor with the single wives. We're giving back. We're showing them what to do before they say I do, so that they can have a better chance of having a successful relationship.
I say it's be the best you that you can be, or before becoming a wife.
Okay.
And LB, I believe we have a caller. Caller, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Tell us your name and where you're calling from.
Hi, this is James calling from Dallas. I just wanted to say I love your show, ladies. You're beautiful. You're giving some great information. But I do have one thing. I'm about to get married soon. If me and my fiance don't see eye to eye on most things, we love each other, but we just don't seem to understand how to see eye to eye with bills, with how we're going to raise our children as far as spanking, discipline, things of that nature. How are we supposed to get past that?
Wow, very good question. If they don't see eye to eye, they're about to get married. If they don't see eye to eye, I'll let you have that.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, I think that's a flag. And it's a flag that needs to be paid attention to right now before you say I do. Have you had premarital education? Have you looked at counseling? I think that's so important because you have to create the foundation of your marriage before. Don't get involved with, the wedding day and all that stuff. We had to put that aside. We spent a year preparing for the marriage that we wanted, not the wedding day. So I think it's so important that you sit down and really understand what it is. Not just because you love each other. Love is not enough. I'm sorry. It's just not enough when we say I do. We need to understand our visions, and right now you're clashing. So we have to come on one page. If I truly encourage you, look at you. I mean, come on, marriage therapist. You can.
I want you to answer.
No, I'm just saying as far as definitely getting the counseling that you need, invest in that because it will be so much worth more than this wedding day you're planning and things about. You want to be successful in your role as a husband. You want her to be successful as her role as a wife. So definitely get some professional help, just getting down to the gritty. I mean, it's all right. Y'all might argue and have some intense fellowship, but it'll be worth it before you say I do.
Definitely. It's a small price to pay
It's an investment.
in preventive measures, but for a lifetime
Of turmoil, pain.
but you get a lifetime return.
Yes.
You get a lifetime return for that small price that you pay initially. If you do the work beforehand, and that doesn't mean that you will be able to eliminate anything
you won't.
and everything that comes along. But like you said with the Single Wives Club, it gives you an opportunity to put some work in the forefront so that you know how to handle things a little bit differently if they do come up. So I think
That's
that
wishes
was
to James. Is it James, right?
James. Yes,
That's
yes.
wishes to you.
Yes.
You'll be all right.
Definitely very, very good. Very good question. Thank you, James. And so, I guess we pretty much have kind of talked about
Absolutely.
a lot of it. Any lasting impressions, thoughts, words of encouragement?
I feel like, relationships are the cornerstone for our communities, for everything that we do. It starts with relationship. Right now, even Nikhol and I have a relationship. It's just truly understanding how to build relationships, loving relationship, intimate relationships, and having fun with it. Marriage is a serious commitment, but you don't have to be so serious. You don't enjoy your spouse. You're growing together. You're learning together. You're maturing together. So enjoy the journey. Happily ever after is not a destination. It's truly a journey. And so right now is your happily ever after. You decide, you choose to have that marriage that you want, that relationship that you want. Go seeking the counseling that you want because it's worth it. It's truly, as Nikhol said, it's worth it in the end.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Lakia, for being here. I appreciate you. And of course, you guys can catch LB here each and every Wednesday for the Mind, Body, and Spirit segment. She is a gem and a jewel, and we so appreciate you. And talking to us tonight about the cost of freedom in regards to life, love, and relationships. And we are going to go right back over to Mel Rose, who's going to give us another sneak peek into what her gift has been in the regards to her lovely voice and artistic talents. Mel Rose, take it away.
I met this boy in high school, only ninth grade, and when he smiled, he put wine on my face. What do I do with this love I have for you? How do I handle the things you say to make me look at you? I'm over my head in love with you. I don't know why, but I love you. Oh yes, I do. I love you. The moments we met, the moment we touched, the moment you kissed me on my cheek, the moments we've shared, the moments we've had, they won't ever be forgotten. I'm over my head in love with you. I don't know why, but I love you. Oh yes, I do. I love you.
Hey, thank you so much, Melrose. You are just a gift and a blessing. And I cannot wait to get down there to you shortly to let the world know who you are and more about your awesome gifts and talents. But thank you all so much again for being here tonight as we talk about the cost of freedom. And we just met with Miss LB, and we talked about the cost of freedom in regards to relationships and life and love. And now we're moving into political awareness and community involvement. As we said at the top of the hour, that there's a cost to pay for everything, every good liberty and freedom that we have here in this country. We have to understand that nothing is free. And so our next guest is going to share with us his experiences in the political realm and his thoughts and ideas about how you can get involved and, again, be the change that you want to see. You know, Mr. Ron Mayo is a committed community servant who has worked for many years prior to getting into politics. He represents House District 84, which is located in DeKalb County, and was elected to the Georgia House of Representatives in 2008. His community assignments include appropriations, education, insurance, and a host of other awesome topics that we'll talk about tonight. And he serves on the Georgia World Congress Center Legislative Overview Committee, which manages the Georgia Dome, the World Congress Center, and Centennial Park. Guys, I would like to go ahead and welcome to the show Mr. Ron Mayo. Welcome, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Nicole. Good to be here.
Oh, thank you so much for being here. I am so excited about this topic tonight.
Yes, ma'am. Freedom is not free.
Not free at all. Not free at all. So tell us a little bit more about you and what you do and how you came to be involved in politics.
Absolutely. Well, I knew at a young age that voting was important. And I hear so much about apathy and so many people who don't want to get out and vote.
Yes.
And that's simple. It's a right we're given
Yes.
and an opportunity we have to exercise our power in the political process. And many people don't use that opportunity to flex their political muscle, cast a vote to influence and shape the decisions being made for them.
Yes.
And I explain to children and young people often that if you don't vote and you don't exercise that authority you have, your voice won't be heard.
Yes.
And elected officials realize and recognize where heavy voter turnout comes from, and we have ways to determine who votes and who doesn't vote. And if someone is not going to take advantage of that opportunity to speak and allow their voice to be heard, then they're going to be muted. And someone told me once that if you're not at the table, you're on the menu.
Wow.
So I knew I wanted to be at the table and have a role and be vocal in the political process as elected leaders are making decisions and influencing the world around me.
I love that. And you know, one of the things that LB and I were talking about at the top of the hour was that if a lot of people say, well, my vote doesn't matter, it's not going to count anyway. And so you talked about that apathy. What do you do in your campaign and your mission? What do you do in the community to try to, you know, alleviate some of that and to really drive home the importance of getting out there?
Right. I make it relevant to people.
Okay.
And oftentimes people will vote and be more in tune to issues that are central to their lives. Kitchen table issues, we call them.
Okay. And what are some of those?
Some of those are issues relating to potholes and homes being broken into.
Yes.
You know, people want safety. They want a good school for their child. They want to know that the hospital is open and accessible to them, that they have a good quality of life, that when you go down and travel to the nearest grocery store, you're not going to see a lot of litter on the ground. So those issues are very central to most people's lives. And there's a host of other issues. Traffic in Metro Atlanta is a big concern for many people. So we worked really hard in the General Assembly to pass a transportation bill, a comprehensive bill that will raise several $100 million for transportation infrastructure in Metro Atlanta, and hopefully we can relieve some of this traffic congestion. And it's my hope.
Wouldn't that be great?
It would be awesome. It would also be awesome if we could do something to expand MARTA.
Yes.
We're a thriving metropolis, and one of those cities that doesn't have a strong and robust transportation, public transit system. And I think there's a lot of room for improvement there. And many people would love more access to MARTA.
And so I'm sure you get this question a lot. You probably get, well, why? Why is this not being done? Why is the focus on that? Why? And so when you have people that come and they say, well, why do we have to wait on this? Why do we not have, adequate access to MARTA? Why are we dealing with the potholes? We have a certain number of funds, and the funds have to be appropriated in certain places, and that's part of your job there as far as your role. But how do you answer those whys when they come up?
Right. It's a matter of priorities and prioritizing those things that are most important. And again, having a voice in the process and expressing and communicating with your elected leaders what's important to you. If you show up at a county commission meeting or city council meeting and there's an opportunity for everyone to voice their thoughts and to share their views during a public comment section of any public meeting. So all of these meetings in the General Assembly, the State House, the State Senate, those committee meetings that may be broadcast and played on the news when there's a controversial issue and you see a highlight or a headline. The same for local government, county commission meetings, the city council meetings where decisions are being made every day. The public, anyone in this state has an opportunity to show up and have an opportunity to speak and engage in that discourse, to put their thoughts and views on the table, and make sure that those elected leaders are hearing from them, and that's very important.
So basically what I hear you saying is get out there and get involved.
Get out there and get involved.
Get
and
involved.
It can be simple. There are people, and one of the ways I got started in my community was picking up litter and working and organizing with my neighbors and just being a part. And it doesn't have to be so broad. Many people think about the presidential elections as their way to engage in politics, and that's when it's important to vote. But it's often not realized by many that it's the local elections that mean a lot in their day-to-day lives, whether that's the school board, a local county commission, or a city council race, or a state legislative race.
And that was going to be one of my questions for you tonight is, we do have a number of people out there who want change, and they understand that they've got to get involved in order to get to that change. But maybe they don't quite know where to start. Start
from your corner. I think Big Boy from Outkast said it.
Corner.
If you want to reach the nation, start from your corner. You don't have to go far. You don't have to reach for the highest heights. You don't have to go to Washington, D.C. There's plenty of issues right here in Atlanta, in DeKalb County, in Clayton County, in Gwinnett County, right in your neighborhood. So
That's
don't go too
powerful.
far. Get
That is
involved with
powerful.
your neighborhood association, your neighborhood planning, the NPUs, a civic organization. There's many ways to get
Just
involved.
right there in your backyard. Wow. We have a caller. Caller, are you there?
Hi.
Hi. Tell us your name and where you're calling from.
Hi. My name is Linda, and I'm calling from Charlotte.
Welcome, Linda, from Charlotte. Thank you so much. What's your question or comment tonight?
Well, my question is, with being in political, like, activism and things like that, what are some of your challenges and obstacles that you're facing, and how are you overcoming those challenges and obstacles?
Very good question. What are some of your obstacles that you're facing right now, and how are you overcoming them?
One of the obstacles is that the special interests, lobbyists, and big business control and influence a lot of the decisions made by government, because they're spending millions of dollars to have access and to shape the decisions being made by elected leaders. And that's why it's important for citizens to step up and express to their elected officials they vote, and make sure that they're participating and that their presence is felt just as much as the special interest, the big business that's controlling and often spending money to influence the decisions being made.
And I think that's kind of what sometimes deters a lot of people, is that we see what we think is power, and we get that impression that, well, it doesn't matter if I do it or not because it's just little old me. But I think that if we have a lot of little old me's working collectively together to put forward the effort to do something and to make that effort to talk about those things that we want to see, we can really see some changes there.
No doubt about it. It's important to leverage your power. And you said a lot of little old me's, and then you become a big force in the process. And a number of votes, if you have 10 votes and 10 people show up at a public hearing and make a point to focus on an issue and express themselves, then it's going to carry a little bit more weight than if one person shows up with a message about an issue.
It's like they take you more seriously.
Exactly,
Definitely.
because 10 votes has more influence and can cause more havoc than one.
I agree.
And the same for 100 and 1,000. So
Right.
more people you can leverage and organize, and that's why I say it's important to get involved at a local level in your community, because those are the issues, those are the people who are going to be engaged and be passionate about local issues and issues that can be determined by showing up and expressing yourself when it comes time
Right there and then.
to cast a vote for an
Exactly.
elected official.
So now you say you started in the community, doing stuff right there in your backyard. How do you now, in your position, how do you balance everything? You know, you move a little bit past, well, you're still in your backyard, but you move past kind of the helping to clean up the neighborhood and do things right there in the corner. Now you're looking at the county. Now you're looking at the state. How do you balance that? How do you balance work, life, and all the other hats that you wear?
I'm still trying to figure that out. I try my best. It's very difficult. And again, as I said, I have to prioritize and I have to manage my time very well, and just be diligent in when I am going to take on a new project. And I have to look at how important it is to my overall goals. And you look for ways to find synergy, find things and get involved with projects that are going to complement other projects and allow for some overlap and a little bit of merger of responsibility and activities.
I get it. And I think, and that kind of probably was a little trick question, you know, because I believe that balance kind of just comes and goes and you feel your way through.
Right.
And so sometimes you'll feel a little bit more balanced than others. This is a personal question that I have, because as a therapist, you know, mental health is really important for me. And I feel like it's important for us all. And thus the premise of our show, mental health and wellness. What are your views about the changes that we need to have and need to see in our state in regards to mental health?
Right. Good question. And one of the things the Affordable Care Act brought was more access to mental health. And with the president's leadership, we now have a health care system that recognizes the importance of mental health.
Yes.
And 62 million Americans will have access, and they can't be excluded or denied coverage because of a pre-existing mental health condition.
Think that's so important.
It is. And in the 70s, it's important to know that there were psychiatric clinics and much more access for mental health.
Yeah.
And states over a period of time closed those clinics and it shut off a lot of the access to mental health services. And now we've got a prison population where over half of those
mental
incarcerated
concerns,
have
yes.
mental health issues, have been diagnosed, or have some symptom of a mental health condition. So I think it's important, again, for us to put some of that focus back in our health insurance programs and for state government to recognize the importance of mental health and reopen some of those clinics that were closed in the 70s, because we've got a generation of people who are being denied access to something that's very, very important.
And, you know, it appears that they closed those facilities, I think, because of the traitment that was being administered back then, and some of that was kind of harsh.
Right.
But in doing so, there was no plan B. You know, so if you close them, you got to have some other type of option. So I appreciate that. Guys, we're going to head back over to Mel Rose, who's going to bless us with another awesome performance. Mel Rose.
There ain't no reason you and me shouldn't be. Seems like I've known you for an eternity. Why can't we be one? 'Cause life won't be the same if you're not next to me. What's singing without you? A guitar without a string, Mr. T without a string. That's like a you without a man. That's like a you without a me. What's a day without the sunshine? What's the beach without a sand? What's the joke without its punchline? That's like a glove without a hand. Oh. 'Cause life won't be the same if you're not next to me. What's singing without you? A guitar without a string, Mr. T without a string. That's like a you without a me. That's like a you without a me. You don't have to be a weatherman to know which way the wind is blowing outside. Open up your eyes, see what I have in mind. We could be a perfect pair, like peanut butter jelly, right like Bonnie and Clyde. Open up your eyes, wouldn't that be so nice? But life won't be the same if you're not next to me. What's sing without you? A guitar without a string, Mr. T without a string. That's like a you without a man. That's like a you without a man.
Awesome. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much, Mel Rose. Mel Rose, tell us briefly you're a Georgia native. Tell the viewers where they can go to find out more information about you and your awesome music.
Hi, my name is Mel Rose. You can find me on Instagram at mel.rose_forever. You can also email me if you'd like me to come and grace you with my presence at booking.
Awesome. And guys, Mel Rose is a true Georgia peach. You don't get many of those here in this great grand state. And so, Mel Rose, thank you so much. You're not a stranger to the show, and we appreciate each and every time that you show up because you definitely show out. All right, guys, so we're back here talking about the cost of freedom. Tonight's show has been focused on political awareness and community involvement. As we said at the top of the show, that everything there is a price. We just rejoined earlier with the awesome Ron Mayo, congressman, who talked to us about his experiences with the state and the different things that he'd like to see change. And he made a point about starting in your own backyard, going to your corner or looking at your corner in your neighborhood and beginning to get involved in creating the change that you want to see. And so we now have another awesome guest joining us tonight. We have Mr. Al Franklin, who's coming to the show. Al is a 15-year professional with a background in management, sales, and marketing. He transferred his skills into political leadership. At the young age of 33, he became an elected official for the City Council Board of Lithonia. And today he serves as Mayor Pro Tem of the city after being nominated to serve by his city council. He also serves on Lithonia's Downtown Development Authority as the board vice president. Welcome to the show, Mr. Al Franklin.
Oh, thank you very much. I certainly appreciate it.
Thank you. I don't know what to do. I got you guys up here. We're having some good conversation and enlightening the people, and so I'm appreciative of you being here tonight.
No problem.
So let's talk. Let's talk a little bit more about you and what you do and how you came to get into this atmosphere of political involvement.
Well, I'll first say that my father always said that I read newspapers a lot when I was little. So I guess it started at an early age, and as far as the interest in politics, and my background as far as an undergrad was business economics, so which further probably put me down the political path. And aside from that, I have been very active in getting involved as far as in the Lithonia political scene. I have decided to run. I can recall making a decision to run at an early age, at 33, considering. So it's been very, very, very much fun. And what I found is that it does actually inspire a lot of people, and so which is more impressive for me. And I never aspired to have any type of titles in regards to the political scene, but whenever you provide good leadership, then people want you to be able to come in and lead.
Well, they say your gifts will make room for you. And so evidently leadership was a gift that you had, and that made room for this realm. And I saw the two of you give that what's up when you all walked in, so I take it that you know each other very well.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
Great.
Yeah. Ironically, Ron and I, Mr. Mayo, we had an opportunity to travel to Washington, D.C. together.
Wow.
At that time, we met the president. And so we were very familiar. I study his work because he's a dynamic guy.
Awesome. So what are some of your personal goals as chairman? What would you like to see in regards to the city that you represent and the things that you stand for? What would you like to see?
Well, Lithonia, of course, is really in need of business development. And whenever you have that being at the forefront is really from the Downtown Development Authority is we're actually just reaching the phase where we're focusing on the business development aspect of the business. We just recently completed our contract we transferred over our amphitheater, which is really
It's
nice. It's the cultural background. A lot of people had a lot of concerts out there, and just really due to political opportunities, it really kind of pushed it to the wayside. And so what I've done is really try to refresh that opportunity. So hopefully between this year and next year, we will be in the concert business once again. So a lot of people will be excited about that. But from the business development side, with the Downtown Development Authority serving as board vice chair, The business development side is we'll focus with one or two key things.
Okay.
And from my background with dealing with construction data reports, I learned that there is a wealth of information in regards to construction companies. You got
Okay.
the architects. And it's a whole entire database of maybe you may see 3,000 plus projects that are listed in that database. And so I think I will probably use that type of background to begin the process of farming
Wow.
relationships,
Okay.
because the goal is really to get to the investor. And whenever you're
to help
trying
push
to
some of those things.
exactly,
I
so
got it.
without the investor relationship
Okay.
being formatted, then it's kind of hard to really give your community a lift.
Okay.
And then secondly, what we will do is really focus on taking advantage of internet traffic. Since my background right now, having my business is in marketing.
Okay.
So with that being in mind, we'll try to utilize marketing and taking advantage of people who are on the internet,
Yeah.
and they want to locate their business in Lithonia.
Okay.
And the DDA has a website. The city council has
Has
a
a
website.
website.
Right.
Yes, everybody has every aspect of operations. I'm sure is
So,
working on developing.
Yes, so I'll be creating a lot of
good.
the background to actually drive traffic
Sounds
so that
good.
we can develop those relationships.
Sounds good. That's awesome. And so with those initiatives and things you're working on, it's going to be key to get the community buy-in and involvement. And as we talked with Mr. Mayo earlier about doing that and trying to juggle and make those things happen, when we do have a certain level of apathy still about being involved in politics in our community, how do you see pushing forward through some of those barriers and getting people to get involved? Because it's great to have the website, to
Right.
have all those things in place, but how do you get the people to do what needs to be done to make those significant changes matter?
Well, sure. I think that's a great question. We recently had a communications presentation presented by one of the local universities so that we could actually work on closing the communication gap.
Okay.
For example, something as simple as I've actually brought the concept as well, a text messaging campaign so that people could actually have the opportunity to opt in to what's going on in the community when we
Okay.
have our meetings, or say for instance we recently had changes in our millage rate in our city, and I thought that it was very important. But because we didn't have a text messaging platform in place, I decided to do a mass call
Okay.
to the community so that they can have the opportunity to come out, because a millage rate means that your taxes for your property run the risk of going up, and you need to have an opportunity to voice your opinion
Yeah.
about that. So as far as in creating the engagement, I really personally believe that it's taking advantage of the technology.
Okay, I think that's awesome because most counties have the county station where you can get the updates and everything that comes on television, but a lot of people aren't necessarily in front of the TV nowadays, but everybody has a cell phone in their hand.
Right.
So I think that's very ingenious to look at getting involvement across those forms and ways. I guess looking at everything that's going on in today's society, we didn't get a chance to talk about this, Mr. Mayo, so you can chime in as well. Looking at the events that happened in Charleston, last night on the radio show, we had a hopeful Senate-elect, Darian on, who would be taking the seat, if elected, the late Senator Pinckney. When we look at, gun control and mental health, as we talked about, and just different things with the state of the country, what are your thoughts about new legislature and getting people involved in those types of changes?
Well, I think new legislation is certainly key and critical, but I think that South Carolina has already taken the first step initiative. For them, it was the blatant issue of having the flag,
Yeah.
which represented, to us, meaning African Americans, a form of divisiveness, and we're trying to get beyond that stage, and so taking that step was certainly good, but. When you're talking about gun control, I don't really have necessarily a specific piece of legislation in mind, but I do certainly believe that gun control is certainly a big issue, because we're running into situations now where people are actually in some forms being terrorized in our very own communities. And you walk into a church and you expect to have church, you don't expect to go there and of course be assassinated, basically. So gun control is something that I would definitely think is important.
I think So, Mr. Mayo, anything that you'd like to add to that?
Sure, I'm supportive of responsible gun ownership. I think we ought to be sensitive to the constitutional right to bear arms. And what we have to also think about is the differences between people who live in rural communities versus urban communities.
Yes.
If you're out in Paulding County or somewhere in southwest Georgia and you live in an agricultural community, it's a different lifestyle than if you live on
city.
Bankhead.
Yes.
And I think a lot of times gun ownership and access to guns can be abused in urban settings. And many of those individuals we meet and talk to that live in rural parts of our state, just there's a disconnect. And we have to be mindful of carjacking and stolen guns, whereas they are born into families that value and respect and honor their ability and their right to bear and use those arms in an appropriate way.
Definitely.
So I think that's one thing. There's a disconnect, and we need to sit down and really look at our differences and be sensitive to each other's needs. The other thing I would say is I believe in background checks, and I think that we ought to be mindful of the mentally ill.
Yes.
And we talked about psychiatric and psychological care and health care and access to that and those services, and that's important in this discussion when we talk about guns and violent crime.
Yeah. So, and I think that at the core of everything we talked about tonight is whether it's political involvement and community involvement in itself or relationships and the cost that we all have to pay if we don't educate ourselves and take the time to get involved, is that the outcomes can affect us all, no matter who or what or where we are. And so I appreciate each of you for being here tonight. I thank you for your candor and your openness and sharing what you shared, because I think that it's very important for us to know that if we want something different, we've got to do something. Got to do something different. We have to. We talk about insanity, and not to harp on mental illness, but as a culture, we use certain terms very loosely: crazy, deranged, insane. Right. But the true definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, but expecting a different result. And I believe as a country, if we want different, we've got to do something different. So I, again, appreciate you both for being here and sharing your thoughts. Yeah. Guys, again, I thank you so much for tuning in tonight to tonight's show as we talk about the cost of freedom. And as always, when we're talking about something delicate and sensitive, I'd always like to share that you may not agree with the topics and the things that you heard tonight. You may not understand, but the goal is to enlighten you to look at things from a different perspective, to open your eyes and your heart to hear something in a way that maybe you've never heard before. So we appreciate you taking the time to tune in. Remember that there's a cost to pay for everything that we have here in this country, and you have to make those decisions and choices to decide what price you're willing to pay for the freedoms that you have today. Join us here each and every Wednesday, same time, same place, as we bring to you the Nikhol B. Jackson Show. Thank you to our guests, Mr. Ron Mayo, Mr. Al Franklin. Thank you to Mel Rose for blessing us with those awesome songs tonight. Thank you to Lakia Brandenburn, LB, our Mind, Body, and Spirit segment, and of course our sponsors that help us out each and every day. Well, Wednesday. Thank you guys. Enjoy the rest of your week. Be blessed. Good night.